Greetings, everyone. So we're back for week 2, and I hope everyone's gotten to know their digital cameras a little better. And we are no longer going to only use auto. We are going to use those other modes that are going to help us take better photos. So now we're talking about composition. We know our cameras better. This week we're going to use them, and just in time for some snow to hit back Michigan. So maybe it won't be as drab and ugly and brown. We'll have some fresh white snow for your photo taking. This is a website that I like to use mainly because it's targeted towards the novice user, but it has some excellent tips. Ironically, it's Kodak, which was one of the first makers of the digital camera, but then they decided they were going to focus on their film business instead of their digital camera business. And now they're talking about bankruptcy. So they probably should have focused on the digital camera business. But nonetheless, we will use their excellent website. The reason I like it is because it is animated, so it really shows you what they're talking about. The first one we're going to talk about is called Get Down on Their Level. And this one, we often tend to take pictures of convenience, especially of kids and of animals. But really, if you get down and get closer to your subject, you're going to take a better picture, which means for most of us, getting dirty. And so, when you are, especially around little kids or animals, you don't want to take it from above. You want to bend down and get closer to them and go face to face because you're going to get a better picture. I often tell my students, we're so easy to zoom with the lens because it's so easy to do. And on most of your cameras, you probably have an optical zoom and a digital zoom. And after you go past your optical zoom, your digital zoom will take you really close to things, but you'll often notice that it doesn't take a great picture. And so I tell my kids, zoom with your feet. So I'm telling you to zoom with your feet. If you can move and get close to it, you should. You shouldn't. We automatically reach to that zoom button. Instead, we should get as close as possible. And that means bending down and getting in close. The couple exceptions, if you're on an African safari, you do not want to get close to the tiger or the lion. Or if you are near a house fire. Those are my 2 exceptions to zooming. But other than that, zoom with your feet. Use a plain background. And I think a lot of times, that they're talking about a frog or a toad. I don't know what, but I don't know how many of us are moving frogs or toads around. But think about your students in your room. And oftentimes we put students against a bulletin board, or we take a picture and there's things coming out of their head. Now, I'm not suggesting they put them against the cinder block wall and take a photo. That's never a suggestion. That looks like a mugshot. Instead, think about using that aperture priority or putting them and actually looking at your background to make sure it's not distracting from what you're trying to take the picture. Our next tip, use a flash outdoors. A lot of times, depending on where your sunlight is, you really can lose a lot in an outdoor photo, especially for those of us who enjoy wearing hats. So don't think about using the force flash. You have that option on your camera, and that's when you're going to want to use it. You can see the difference in these photos. The next tip, move in close. It goes earlier with my zoom with your feet. But of course, most of us have that macro option on our cameras. So instead of getting the entire plant, get in and get the individual flower, get the individual petal. You really can take a different photo than that photo of the entire plant. And think about it too with your students. Instead of taking that group shot, get in and get close and take a shot of one student's face. It really makes a difference. Take some vertical pictures. It was so easy just to take the horizontal because the camera fits perfectly in your hand horizontally. So it makes us feel like that's how the pictures are meant to be taken. But turn your camera and you'll find that you get some pretty incredible photos. Lock your focus. We talked about this last week with the half press. This is the idea of not having to make everything the center of our photo. And it's done successfully with the use of the half press. The next one is rule of thirds, and this we use a lot in video too. And you can see that the same thing goes with the half press. You don't necessarily have to have things in the middle. And the rule of thirds, if you think about this like a tic-tac-toe board, and here I'm drawing my tic-tac-toe board really well, you notice that your pictures can be more interesting if you put different things in these spots. So this is where you actually want to try to place your subjects. Now, clearly you wouldn't want 4, so it looked like a tic-tac-toe board, but it's called rule of thirds, and this is where you want your subjects to be, at the intersection of these points. It makes it very visually interesting, and when you watch television, if you look at a lot of the shots in TV, you'll notice that they do use rule of thirds. The next tip, know your flash's range. This is really important inside too when you're taking photos from across the room and your flash only goes 4 feet, but you're taking a photo that's 8 feet away. You're really not, it makes no use to use your photo. You're just illuminating the floor. So instead, know how far your flash is going to go so you're actually using it as opposed to just lighting up the blank area in front of you. Next, watch where your light is. It's really hard too, especially when you're outside. You tend to want to put people facing into the light, but then they're always squinting. If you have the light behind them, they're backlit. So try to put the light to one of their sides. Clearly, sometimes that's hard when you are in a place with where you want a specific background. But try realizing where your light is and using it to your advantage. The next one is be a picture director. And I think this makes a lot of sense. I have to say that as a child, my parents did the lineup where they placed us in a line in front of a certain building. For instance, the Capitol of Michigan, and my mom would put us on the steps, and the next thing you know, she was at the street level trying to fit the entire building in the picture, and we were 3 small dots on the Capitol steps. So when I say be a picture director, this is a great example. Instead of having them line up, tell them how to be, direct your students where to be, direct everyone where to be, but then also think too about what are you taking a photo of? Am I taking a photo of my family on vacation in front of the Capitol building, or am I taking a picture of the Capitol building? And it's okay to just take a picture of the Capitol building. You don't have to have people in it. But if you're going to have people in it, the idea is when my mom backed all the way up to the sidewalk, we should have probably been 3 feet in front of her with the building larger over our shoulders. It makes a better picture and you don't lose your people. So there are some more techniques and more advanced techniques as this keeps popping. And I'll close this and I will leave you just links to this. But this is what I want you to think about when you're out taking pictures this week. And I apologize for the whining in the background. That was my border collie who really loves her ball that is stuck under a table. And she really wanted me to stop what she was doing so I could get it. So on that note, I will leave you. But if you have questions, let me know. And I hope you enjoy this week's assignment.